Okay, so we are live. And good Sunday to everyone. Good Sunday. We're going to get started in a little bit. And thank you guys for stopping in today. And I appreciate you for doing so. Today we're going to be talking about um, microphones for the noobs. For those who are just getting started in purchasing microphones and some important specs you need to pay attention to. My brother, how are you? It's good to see you. Greetings from Sunny Devon. Hey, listen, man, send some of that sunshine my way, brother, because we need it right now. You know, I do. I definitely listen. You have to send me an email because I I don't know if you caught a couple of live streams ago, but there was something I wanted to include you in, and I was talking about you in a previous live stream to the audience. And shoot me an email, and I'll shoot you one back with regards to that conversation. I don't want to get into it over the live stream right now, but yeah, that's something I want to include you in on. So and you were the topic of discussion a couple of live streams ago. I just wanted to let you know. Okay. But I'm glad to see that you're here, and yes, please send some of that sunshine my way, because we're in New York, hunkered down, like we're being rained upon, in the worst way, that is. You know what I mean? And I'm looking around, and I don't even have my water, so I might have to run upstairs and get something to drink. So, but I'm glad that you're definitely, you know, tuning in, and it's all good. I gotta forget that there's a delay. You know, there's a delay. So when I'm talking to people, I'm not talking in real time. Sometimes I forget that. But let me run upstairs and get my water bottle because I left it upstairs. I don't want to have cotton mouth while I'm talking. So I'll be right back. I'm back. All right, that took a minute, but so anybody else here? Just state who you are, what you're up to. I'm interested. It's not just a these live streams are not me talking at you. It's community. We're talking back and forth. We're having dialogue. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you just sharing what you do. And this way we have back and forth, ice breaking conversation. Okay? But we're waiting for a few more people. If not, I'm going to get right into it. So, but it's been I don't say, well, I don't know how do you did it when you're in a situation like we are here in New York. Um, I don't know how to describe it, if you will. Part of me, says that yes, I am ready to get back to normal life, whatever that will be. Um, After this thing. But the other part of me is cautious, in that, we're in a situation where we don't have a vaccine for this virus. and you have to assume that everyone is a carrier. And I've had several friends that have been, you know, knocked flat with this thing. Thank God they're still in the land of the living, as they say. But yeah, this is nothing to play with. So we're trying to keep safe and doing our best, you know, under the conditions. But yeah, on a day like yesterday, which was beautiful and sunny, I wanted to get out, and it's like you go outside, it's a ghost town. Everybody has the same idea, so it's crazy, crazy, crazy to say the least. So let me see, how many do we have? How many do we have? Right, well, 3 viewers. All right, well, I guess more um will join us shortly. So I'm gonna get right into it. All right. Um, a couple of I would say mm, videos ago, I was talking about there's 3 levels of approach that I use when I'm buying a microphone. I'm a microphone junkie, if you will. And I think mics are very good investments for any studio. I don't mean just buying any old type of mic. I mean investing in the best mics that you can afford for the job that you are about to do. Not only that, microphones, if you buy quality ones, will hold their value. You know, so that is something else that has to be considered when purchasing microphones. Um, the main thing that I remembered when I was buying uh, my first microphones when I was getting started, everybody talked about a couple of specs that were important. Um, I, at the time, being a kid, was going after the look, if you will, and not realizing the value in the specification charts that the manufacturer is providing. You know, so as I was having this dialogue with a couple of pro audio people, this is we're going back some times about what is the best thing to look at when purchasing your first. And when I was at the time trying to purchase my first quality microphone, um, I was told a couple of specs that were very important to look at, but also make sure that if you're going to make the investment, to buy the best that your budget could afford, and also the microphone had to be multifunctional. Now, you fast forward to right now, we're in a day and age where, multifunctional is, I guess, not as important to people as much as it is the vast array of microphones that have flooded the market. You know, when I was coming along, I think we had just basically ribbon mics, which were, RCA, which in turn turned into AEA, today, and Neumann's and AKG. Sennheiser, obviously was a big microphone manufacturer. But these were people that made microphones, and that was all that they did. Nowadays, everybody and their brother who can come up with a mic idea and draw up some specs and send it off to China to get a mic made can get a mic made. And that's good. I'm not anti-capitalism, but at the same time, that's bad because there's no real quality control chain, if you will, that people are adhering to. There's a company, I'm not going to call their name. I reached out to them several times to get review copies of their equipment. And a very well respected pop artist has used their microphone on their record. So I mean, it only takes something like that, someone with 1 million+ followers, or can generate 1 million+ streams, to put you over the top in terms of being a manufacturer. Does that in and of itself make your product good or quality? The answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, is no. I think a whole lot more goes into making a product than just, you introduce a product, you bring it to market, and then suddenly you get a hit, with someone using your product, and bam, suddenly your product is the thing that everyone is using. You know, that might be a fluke. That's just something that happened. It doesn't make your product quality. You know, so with that being said, I said, well, can I get a review copy? No response. I go to their website. Okay, well, I'll just work my way backwards. I'll review it based on the information they provide from a technical perspective. Nothing available on the website. So my thing is this: if you're not going to give me a review copy and your information is not readily available to the public, then you just got lucky, man. You got lucky. You put out a product that this person used on their record. The record generated a whole bunch of streams, and you're the benefactor of their success. Good for you. Good for your bottom line. But that does not make you a manufacturer of quality equipment. And I'm going to get into that in a minute with what I call, not necessarily I think I should have named it the Dummies Guide, but it's more of a guide for people who are new, to buying their first microphone. Now, there's a group of folks now, even in this corona situation that we're in, there's a group of folks that honestly need to be tuning into this. And that would be instrumentalists who want to up their game in terms of the quality of equipment they're using, as well as vocalists. The reason why I'm saying vocalists, because I think it's important for everyone right now to get their technical bearings in check, because we don't know how long this thing is going to last. And at the same time, the world still needs music. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to find a way to still facilitate getting together to create, yet still maintain a level of quality at the same time. So that's where I step in. Maybe you get technical folks, there's, instrumentalists, and there's vocalists that maybe do have technical aptitude. And, maybe they don't. But for those who do not, now is the time to verse yourself in your instrument. Vocalists I'm talking to right now. You're going to have to learn what a compressor does. You're going to have to learn what a compressor sounds like. You're going to have to learn microphone specs, because every mic may not suit you for whatever reason. So that's where I come in today. I think I'm going to do a series, and I will start out with just microphones, but the entire chain, the mic, the preamp, the compressor. You're going to have to, as a vocalist or instrumentalist that's being hired through the internet to do a job, you're going to have to be able to provide that client, because I'm sure most of y'all still want to work. You know what I mean? You're going to have to be able to provide that client something that doesn't sound like it was recorded on an iPhone. Period. Nobody going to pay you $300, $400 to do a gig, to sing tracks, and your stuff is sounding substandard sonically. So it's important for all of us, for the vocalists especially, to get some sort of technical aptitude, and that's where I come in at. So let's take a couple of statements. And Gurner, you said, I love the Bear dynamic. Yes. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, these a lot Bayer and what's the other? Telefunken. Excuse me. Telefunken as well. They're starting to, get back into the game big time like they used to. most definitely. And the buyers come in with the individual frequency graph for that individual mic. Really? Wow. You know what? Okay. So that's good because you know who else used to do that. As a matter of fact, I have the original frequency graph and QC card from my 30 some odd year old 414. And see, that's again, it gets back to quality control. These companies took that stuff quite seriously, you know, in terms of QCing what's walking out of their door because their name is going on it, you know, and those things are important. So back to my original point of the noob's guide. Let's jump to my first slide, which is okay. Chaz Seamus 28 says, I'm looking to buy my first mic. Any suggestions? You are the guy, my brother. I thank you for tuning in. And you want to spend 500-ish? Well, I'm about to blow your socks off, my brother. Fasten your seatbelt, okay? Go get yourself a cool drink. Come back and let me chat at you. So, okay, back to the story. See, I'm being silly. Anywho. Oh, okay, Gerna. Yeah, that's a good thing. Them copperheads. I'm gonna talk about those, but yeah, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna make a note of that. We're gonna come back to that point. The Dummy's Guide to Buying a Microphone. Here's a few questions, and I'm gonna take off the dummies thing. I use dummies not in a disparaging way, but in a way that if you're new to buying your first microphone, there are several things that you really, really, really need to pay attention to. And one of those things is not the salesperson selling you the mic. Period. End of story. Full stop. They're in it because they're trying to generate a commission. You have to make sure that whatever mic you are purchasing is going to work well for your voice, for your instrument. You have to be 100% happy with your purchase. There is only one way to get to happy, and that's through asking yourself these questions. What am I going to use the mic on? Period. What are you going to use that microphone on? Vocals, instrument, or both? Okay? Now, if you're going to be using it on both, there's a lot that you have to keep in mind. You know, if your budget is limited, again, it makes it even more important for you to delve into the deep parts of this mic that you're about to spend money for. You know? So that's point one. Point two, who is the manufacturer? And I'm an advocate. If you buy it cheap, you're going to buy it 2 times. Period. Don't buy off-brand microphones. Make sure the company is in the business of making microphones. You do not go to the butcher down the block for dental work. Okay? I know that's 2 extremes, but understand my point. Why would you go and buy a microphone from someone who didn't have the decency or the time to put the spec on their website? Someone, a manufacturer who has not been in the game as long as Shure, Neumann, Telefunken. Why? It makes no sense to me, you know. And it's important that those are considerations that one has to make. I mean, if your money is limited, the more limited your finances are when you're about to buy something, the more informed you need to be as to what you're about to purchase. Period. You know, if this company has not been in the business of making microphones as a microphone company that I have reached out to whose capsules are read multiple times for review, I mean, then why buy it? Why buy it? You know? So you got to be very, very leery. and know who the manufacturer is. How does it sound on my fill in the blank? Let your ears be your guide. Period. I've said this multiple times, either in a live stream or through video. Buy it from a retailer that's going to give you 30 days to return it. And sometimes when you call these guys and you ask for return authorizations, they get moan and cry and woo woo woo. That's fine. You have to be happy with what you are purchasing. If you're not happy with what you're purchasing, and if you're not happy with the sound, trust your ears. Trust your ears. You know what I mean? You know what you're looking for, and you will know when you've arrived at that sound. Period. Okay? And here's the kicker, the final point. How can I get it repaired? Reputable companies have this department. I bought some time ago 2 Neumann TLM 103s. TLM 103s. And they weren't a matched pair. I bought them. I found them on eBay. I wound up selling them because I didn't like the sound. They sounded a little too bright for me. But the first thing I did after I purchased those microphones, I called up Neumann and I got them both of them recalibrated back to factory spec. It cost me some money, about maybe $200 per mic, but I figured like this: they're gonna take care of their equipment, in the proper way, So if you're buying from said company who doesn't even have the spec on their website, who won't send reviewers a copy, and I'm not a disgruntled person shouting on this company, please. So if I get any hate comments later, whatever. The thing is that stand by your stuff. Neumann stands by their stuff. Shure stands by theirs. AKG. You're a new jack. You trying to get into the game, and you got lucky the first time around with somebody recording with your microphone and they had a hit. Stand by your stuff. So, buy from a reputable company, and also make sure that if that mic fails, you can get it repaired. Period. Those are some very important points. Let's review one more time. What am I going to use this microphone on? Who is the manufacturer? How does it sound on my fill in the blank? Instrument, voice, whatever. And how can I get it repaired? Those are by far the single most important pieces of information you should inform yourself with outside of what I'm going to show you next. Okay? So let's get back. Bam. So let's take a question or two. Let's see. Okay, so Chaz, I guess he's back. He got his cool drink and he's chilling with Warren. And he got $500 to spend. I'm gonna get to you in a minute. The Telefunken Copperheads. I'm gonna really blow some people's socks off with that one. I'm sure, Gurner, you've been blown away by that mic, because I know the first time I breathed into it, I was flabbergasted. I was just blown away with that mic. But the best value mic is buying. Okay, so I think, Gurner, you let the cat out the bag. I am talking about the Avantone CV12. Yes, I am. I'm talking about Avantone. Man, they don't give a brother no love, man. None whatsoever. Chad said he got coffee. All right, my brother. Coffee is good. I just had a couple of cups myself. Okay. But yeah, man, Avantone, man. I don't know, bruh. If you are getting good mileage out of it, God bless you. Keep on driving. But yeah, man, I can't get no love from them, man. I've been reaching out to them, and they just recently put the spec up on that microphone. So, hey, listen, if it works, it works. That's my thing. I look at microphones, like I said in a couple of videos ago. Microphones to me are investments. My first AKG C414 BULS is over 37 years old. I bought it brand spanking new for $1,000 as a kid. And I'm going to tell you, a 37-year-old mic, Ain't nobody getting. I mean, listen, that mic is gonna be handed down to whomever after I'm long gone. The microphone is a classic. They don't even make those mics anymore. It was made in Austria. Now I don't think AKG is. Anybody want to chime in and correct me? I don't think most of their manufacturer is still based in Austria. So, you know, let's see. The TLM, yes, and the coffee, yes, got the coffee, and the points about the repair, yes, very important. So let's get to not the dummies guide, but some important specs one needs to pay attention to. And let me get my little sheet here. Okay, the 4 most important specs that you need to pay attention to when you're purchasing a mic: the self noise, the signal to noise ratio, the frequency response, as well as the sensitivity. The self noise, the frequency response, the signal to noise ratio, and the sensitivity. Those are the 4 single most important bits of technical information one should inform themselves with, because all of those specs determine the sound of the microphone from a general perspective. Now the capsule is important too. Don't get me wrong. A lot of mics can be modded if you change capsules. So that aside, the electronic perspective of a microphone, one should inform themselves with the signal to noise ratio, the sensitivity, the frequency response, and the most important, the self noise. Let's go through them. Coming in at number 3, the Studio Project C1 can be had for $175 on eBay. It boasts a frequency response of 30 to 20,000, which is good for just generally anything from vocal to and through the instrument, to and through the whatever. Okay, it's a good general purpose microphone for that reason. But here's the kicker. The impedance, which you'll see if you go 1, 2, 3, 4 down from the top, it says output impedance of less than 200 ohms. That's important. The microphone has a sensitivity of -37. Now, what does the sensitivity mean? All microphones need a level of preamplification, okay? Now, if any of you were good in mathematics, and generally, let's take algebra, the number line. See the number line in your brain real quick. 0 is in the middle, negative is this way, and positive is to the right. Now, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boasts a sensitivity of -37. When you're talking about sensitivity, you want that number to be in the high negatives. The higher the number, the more sensitive the microphone is, the less overall amplification it is going to need to hear. Okay? Think of it like your eardrum. The microphone has a transducer. Just like your eardrum is a transducer for sound, the microphone is that capsule is a transducer. So imagine if everyone needed some level of amplification in their ear. Okay? And maybe some people do. And we all had to wear hearing aids. Some of us will need more amplification to hear. Maybe some of us, because of our eardrums being young or whatever, will need less amplification. That is the sensitivity. How well a mic can hear down. Now, you want that number to be in the high negatives. The higher that number is, which is why when we were talking, Gardner, you were saying about that Telefunken. The higher that number is, the better the microphone. Which is why some mics are insanely expensive because of that number. Let's get back. Studio Projects. Sensitivity is -37. That's decent. If you have a quality preamp, you should be able to give some quality, quiet amplification to this microphone without any problems. Has a maximum sound pressure level of 131 dB, which is not good. Now, the second most important, before I get to the final, the second most important will be the signal to noise ratio. Now, again, the signal to noise ratio, in this case, the higher the number, the better. The good thing about the signal to noise ratio is that long ago a standard was set by, I'm not sure who the governing body was. A standard was set that if you had a signal to noise ratio, of 77 decibels or greater, that was good. Now, 77 back in the time of tape recording machines was respectable. That was a respectable spec. Of course, everyone wants higher, but 77 was respectable. So in terms of the studio projects, a signal to noise ratio of 77 is respectable. Now, okay, we did frequency response. We talked about the signal to noise ratio. Here's the third spec, the self noise. Okay, this is of utmost importance when you are about next to the signal to noise ratio, aside from the frequency. All microphones in any studio situation generate some sort of self noise, be it due to poor components, cold solder joints on the logic boards, stray electromagnetic energy within the studio from magnets around it, whatever. Some microphones generate more self noise than others. Now, what you want in a self noise spec, anything technically 17 and below is generally good. Okay? So in the case of the studio projects, we're in a good place with it being at 17. It's always going to show itself, hopefully, when you're going to a looking at the spec on the website of the manufacturer. It's a negative number. I'm sorry, 17. That's positive number. Excuse me. Excuse me. So it's going to be 17 for this particular microphone, but again, lower is better. Period. If the mic is lower, lower is better. In the case of the studio projects, having a self noise of 17, lower is better. Get back. Here we are. So the studio projects coming in at number 3 for $175 is not a bad purchase. It's respectable. Here's another kicker. With any microphone, you can make a mic like this sound like $1 gazillion, provided you pair it with the right preamplification. So if you got a good preamp like a Neve, a Focusrite, an API, this mic is going to sound stellar. This mic is going to sound stellar because you have a quality preamplification with these decent mic specs. You can't go wrong with a mic like this. But if you pair this mic with substandard preamp, and there are plenty out there on the market, or if you just are relying solely on the preamps provided on your interface, you might not really get the quality that this mic can provide for the price. But bang for the buck, this is not a bad purchase. And that 175 that I'm showing you is currently on eBay right now. So you can pick this mic up for, virtually next to nothing. Okay? Coming in at number 2 is the AKG P240. Okay? At $179. Now, before I get into the specs of this mic, period, point blank, full stop. Why is this mic a good value? Because of the AKG name. Period. It's like Michael Jordan taking the last shot of an important game. You can't beat someone who knows how to get it done. You know what I mean? And AKG has been doing it for a gazillion and 1 years. So regardless of being overwhelmed when you're going to a retailer site and say, oh God, I got all these choices to make, know that anytime you're buying the AKG name, you're buying quality. For all of the reasons that I stated earlier, down to being able to get in this mic repaired in a pinch. So let's go through the specs real quick. All right. 20 to 20,000 hertz frequency response, which makes this mic capable of recording any type of vocal or instrument. Okay. It has a sensitivity of -28, which is pretty impressive. I mean, when I saw the price compared to most other mics, 28. I mean, that -28 is not too shabby. When you're thinking about it, you're gonna need, again, you want to pair a mic like this up with quality preamplification, and just as a side, one thing I want everyone to understand also is that I know that there's a lot to be said about what UA is doing with their software, preamps, and all that. And a lot of it sounds good. But you have to stand these microphones up against a real preamp, an output preamp, to hear and understand what the microphone is truly capable of doing. Okay? So, although the preamps on the UA interfaces as well as the Focusrites are quite good, you always want to give yourself the opportunity to weigh the quality of what it is that you're purchasing against a hardware piece of gear. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at these microphones. Okay, so back to the spec. Has a decent signal to noise ratio of 79 dB. Now that in and of itself is impressive. You're approaching 80 dB, which means it has quality componentry on the inside, and again, you just can't beat that AKG quality, and they've been in the game, longer than most. Let's go down to the self noise of 15 measly old decibels. For a mic of $179, the name and the quality that AKG stands for, just to have self noise of 15 decibels is pretty doggone good. That's pretty good. And you're not spending an insane amount of money. As long as you pay attention to who you're buying it from and the spec sheet, and you're making informed decisions based on technical information, you should be fine. You should definitely be fine. But you can't go out and just because a certain pop artist used a microphone on their voice, assume that it's going to work for you. Because maybe, she had a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 preamp chain that made this seemingly borderline mic sound outstanding. You don't know what the circumstances were that she recorded that. I said she. I shouldn't even say she. Now I done gave it away. But between me talking about the mic earlier and I said she, I think most people will be able to know who I'm talking about. But you don't know the circumstances that record was recorded under from a technical perspective. So keep those things in mind. Okay, let's get back to that AKG. The self noise of 15 decibels is quite impressive. The sensitivity of negative 28 is again impressive for a mic of $179. And the frequency response makes it capable of recording on just about any type of source. So, can you go wrong with spending $179 on this mic? Not to mention, it comes with a hard shell case as well as a shock mount. You're getting a whole lot of bang for your buck. And it's typical. You know why? Because AKG stands by their product. So keeping those things in mind. Before we jump to my top recommendation, let's go to some questions. Hey, didn't know you were live. Cool, just sub to you. Love to. Hey, secret. Hey, man. Hey, listen, good to see you, brother. Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you subbing. And also, I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks and glad to have you, man. And what UAD Apollo preamps? Oh, the preamp said, like I think you have a UAD 1073 software preamp. There's a YouTube video where the guy put the 1073 in the UAD versus a real 1073. And although I have to admit that the UAD 1073 sounded great, it didn't have the depth. And many of you, if you've been following me for any duration of time, will know that I always talk about the depth that you get, the front to back depth, that you get from hardware. So I don't know its name. If I find the video, I will link it in the community tab, and you guys can go and peruse it at your convenience. But yeah, man. Nothing like a hardware preamp. Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, good. So any other questions? Specs, how to read them, what to look out for. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to jump forward into my number one pick, and I declare, man, this mic, I'm put it to you this way. This mic needs to be at least 3 to 4 times the price. 3 to 4 times the price. But before I do, Chaz Seamus 28 said, "Can you buy a mic with preamps in it already?" Well, no, you can. You used to be able to. Radio Shack, but it's a little old school joke. But no. The reason why quality records sound quality is because of the preamplification used. We're living in, if you're a younger musician and someone that's just coming up in tech, we're in an amazing time, because a lot of the schematics for tech that was not available to me as a youngster is now available and being replicated by several manufacturers. So all the things that used to cost a fortune, for instance, a Fairchild 670, by far the best very mute compressor on the market. A Fairchild by today's money will cost you approximately $15,000 in the used market, provided it's in decent enough condition. There's a company, IGS Audio, that has made an incredible sounding Verimute compressor modeled after the Fairchild. $2,000, $3,000? That's sick. That is sick. Man, I mean, what used to cost a fortune yesterday is now, they're giving this stuff away. Warm Audio with their 1073s. Heritage. Again, with their preamps and so many others. So all the tech that was costing a fortune now can be had for a song. So these are incredible times, man. Any mic that you pair up, and let me just quickly sidebar because I didn't want to get too far into the weeds with understanding one little key point, which is this. You have to pair a microphone with a quality preamp from the perspective of ohms, because mismatching mics and preamps or not knowing the ohmage on the receiving side of the preamp, coming the output of the mic into the preamp, if you don't understand how important that is, then you're going to degrade the quality of your signal. Which is why I said originally, you could take any type of mic and pair it with the $1,000+ preamp and it's going to sound stellar, as long as the ohmage is matched. Now, what does that mean? Mics have an output, and ohmage it can be likened like, imagine a hose, okay? And water is flowing through a big hose, and then it has to narrow itself down into a smaller. That's called resistance. So that resistance affects, I'm using the water analogy because as it's flowing through the bigger hose, it gets through and then suddenly has to go through a smaller hose, and now you're asking for the same pressure that was on the big hose to get through the smaller one. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. You know, you may have more resistance in that flow because of the narrowing of the hole, of the hose. Now, with that in mind, resistance exists in electronics. So if you mismatch a microphone's output impedance with the wrong preamp, and you're wondering why, hey man, why my guitar sound all thin? It's because you got a whack preamp. The preamp has terrible specs, terrible componentry. So that's why I'm saying we're living in a good time, because whack preamps were par for the course when I was coming up. You know, I've run a semi-pro studio most of my life. I mean, as of recent years, in the last 20 plus years of my career, I've become a professional studio catering to more professional clientele. But in the beginning, I worked in demo studios. So -10 was understood, you know, as the standard for semi-pro. Now everybody is +4, you know. So you got to make sure that you're matching your equipment properly in order to get the quality you're looking for. You know, so that's why I say you have to make sure you have a good quality preamp, because a quality preamp, and nowadays $500 from Warm Audio, you know, a couple of $100 from Heritage, you're getting a sick preamp that's able to output some nice clean gain. It makes any mic sound great. Okay? So yes, impedance, microphone impedance is important. You know, matching impedance is important. If your microphone preamp's input impedance is 1500 ohms, you want to match that with a mic that's 200, 100 ohms, 150 ohms. The mic's output impedance must be 10, going into the preamp, you need 10 times the power, you know, coming on the input of the preamp. I've said a lot. There's a lot of information you can look out, but impedance is important. You know, so whereby you may be tempted to reach for some substandard preamplification, keep in mind, when you do, you are compromising the integrity of your signal, because resistance is a real thing, you know, and resistance comes in the form of, you know, maybe you don't have that fatness. You know, you're a baritone singer. You sound like Barry White, and suddenly you plug it in and you sounding all like Tweety Bird. Why? Because of that. You know? So keep those things in mind. Chad says, I have to do a video on preamps too. I've done a ton. If you look, I think my largest one is the Warm Audio WA73 EQ. Yes, preamps are important. Um, but it's a topic, man. It's really deep. I have a lot that you could peruse right now on my channel that you could take a look at. And if you have any questions, this is for anybody. Feel free. This is community, y'all. So reach out to me, ask me any questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. If I can't, I will definitely point you in the right direction. Okay? So let's get back to some questions. Secret Armor, I'm gonna talk to you about the range on the noise gate in a minute, but want to have it on down with expander, even when the gate. Okay, we'll talk about that more towards the end because I want to get into my number one pick right now. And this mic needs to be at least 3 to 4 times its price, and that would be the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure microphone, which I covered on my channel. It has a decent sensitivity. It has a very low output impedance of 110 ohms, a high sound pressure level of 140 decibels. Okay, 140 dB. Before I get to the last two specs, do you all realize how loud that is? I'm sure some or many of you do. But without a pad on the mic, 140 decibels of sound. So which means it makes a great overhead microphone for drums. Okay? There's two other things I'm going to say about this microphone, which I'm talking into right now. But let's start with the signal to noise ratio of 87 decibels. Now, Warren Hewitt on his channel, that's producelikeapro.com, he visited the factory. I'm going to tell you, first of all, they're in Austria. And the Germans and the Austrians got mics on lock, period. The Americans, we did quality ribbon microphones. RCA was an American company back in the 50s. Ribbons were the American standard. The Germans and Austrians were all with the condensers. But Lewitt, these people are not playing. They got sick research and development. Their mics go through stringent testing. If you get a chance, go on Produce Like a Pro, Warren Hewitt's site, and take that tour with him, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But back to the Lewitt, which is my number one choice. 87 dB signal to noise ratio. But let's get to the all-important self-noise spec of a measly old 7 decibels. Now, getting back to Gerner's point, do you all realize that mics costing at least 4 times this price spec out at a self-noise of 7 dB? I think there's a model by Telefunken, the AR51, which specs out, I think, at about 8 decibels. I got cotton mouth, excuse me. Specs out at like about 8 decibels. So to have a mic, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. They did the self-noise test on that tour with Warren, which tells me these people ain't playing. They trying to make a dent in the market. Now, if you can't afford to spend the $259 for this mic, they have the junior version of the 140. But this mic is worth, spec-wise alone, at least 2 to 3 times. Can I use this on vocals as well? Yes, I'm going to tell you the reason why. It's worth at least 2 to 3 times the price that you're going to pay for it, spec-wise. Now, here's the kicker with this mic. The frequency response curve is pre-EQ'd. That is so important. It has the frequency bumps at the right places for voice, for stringed instruments. What else can benefit from this mid-range bump? Acoustic guitar. Now, maybe you might not like it so much on drums for an overhead, but if you're a jazz drummer where you have to play light, and this mic has a self noise of 7 dB, this is a great snare drum mic. The brush work, if you play brushes, I hope my jazz drumming brothers who peruse the channel, this is the perfect mic. Now, I haven't used it for that purpose yet. I will be. But spec-wise, this tells me it's a great mic for jazz and light acoustic music, just based on the spec. Pair this bad boy, which I have done on my channel. I compared this to the AKG 414. You can hear the pre-EQ'd curve. So if you get a chance, go to that video on my channel. But this mic should at least cost, and I'm going out about $900. $900. So anyone who bypasses this microphone for the measly old price of $259, you get a shock mount, a pop filter, as well as the mic. And then they have their own factory, which means, how can you beat this mic in terms of cost alone, flexibility alone, spec alone? You can't. There's not a better mic in its class, period, full stop. I don't care who tells you. I'm telling you, based on the spec alone, this mic should be at least 3 to 4 times its price. Okay, so that is my number one pick for budget mic, is the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure. If you don't believe what I am saying, again, you can go to my namesake Warren Hewitt's Produce Like a Pro. He put this microphone up against a classic U47, and this mic stood its ground. Okay, so aside from the spec, man, price wise, you can't beat this mic. I honestly, this mic should be at least 3 to 4 times rather the price that you're gonna pay. So my suggestion for anyone that's looking for a versatile mic, vocalist, if you're tuning in, this is the mic you want to buy. That's the mic you want to buy, because maybe you don't know how to EQ vocals well. You know, its pickup pattern, off-axis pickup pattern is decent. You could EQ the mic that way by turning the mic just to give you a different color. I'm not talking about turning it 360. I'm saying off-axis with your voice, so that you're singing across, maybe at a diagonal or whatever. I'm telling you, this mic should be at least 3 to 4 times the price that you're going to pay for it. So that is my number one pick. Okay, so back to Chad Seamus says, yes, you can use this on vocals. This channel is gold mine to me. Well, I'm glad, my brother. Listen, thank you for saying that, man. I honestly mean that, because it's about community. I don't want to come off as someone who's talking at you. Let's have a dialogue, so if I'm helping you, my mission has been accomplished, and I do appreciate you for saying that, brother. Links for life, just in time. Yes, you are, man. How you doing? Tell me what you up to, and we're gonna slide into something that was a question that was presented to me by my brother Secret Armor regarding noise gates. I just want to end with that, but let's jump back to my number one pick, the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure, $259. Spec wise, there is no one in the market right now that can beat this microphone. Not Advantone, not anyone. Period. Price versus performance. There is no other mic company right now out there that can contend with Lewitt. Period. End the story. Full stop. Don't believe what I'm saying. Go to Warren Hewitt's Produce Like a Pro and check out him putting this microphone against a classic Neumann U47. And you will see this mic go toe to toe without any problems whatsoever. Okay? John, I'm going to check out the Lewitt. Yes, man, these mics are killing. Go on their website. Killing. When Warren Hewitt first reviewed it, you know, you side eye stuff like, I don't know, man, I don't know. Then I said, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just look at the spec. The only reason why I picked this mic up initially was not because of his review as much as it was that 7 dB noise floor. I'm like, self noise of 7 decibels? Gotta see it. Gotta hear it. When I plugged this thing in, I was like, oh snap. Oh my God. This thing was killing. Now, it's not going to be for everybody, but the fact is that for the money, and if you're limited, and then, I mean, you know, kudos to my Austrian brothers, you know, the German brothers, they got it on lock. Some people do some things better than others. Period. And the Austrians got it on lock. They're bringing back that heritage. You know what I'm saying? And that's important. That's grafted into who they are as a people. You know? They're top microphone makers. It's AKG. Right down the block from Lewitt is AKG. Maybe not literally right down the block, but you know what I'm saying. You know? So, I mean, you really can't beat this microphone. You can't beat it. Pound for pound, dollar for dollar, you really, you know, you can't beat this mic. You know, so if you have just a few pennies to spend, like I said, if you buy cheap, you're going to buy it twice. So why buy it twice when you could buy it once for cheap? You know what I'm saying? That's pretty good. Why buy it twice when you could buy it for cheap once? Now, if any of y'all use that, I'm coming after you. Okay? I coined that phrase first. You heard it here. Okay? So back to the story. Okay, John, I'm going to check out the Lewitt. Yes, sir. Please do. That's a great mic. Links for Life. I have it and love it. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, you can't beat this microphone. You can't beat this mic. Okay, so that's my top pick. If any of you all have any further questions with regards to spec and you need a detailed explanation, feel free. I do have one other microphone that I would love to share with you all. That's a sleeper. And I have my case right here. What do you know? So I'm going to throw this into the mix. It's not necessarily, you know, if I'm talking about buying new, but this is something, I mean, literally, I have about 3 of these things right now. This is an AKG made in Austria. This was deemed the poor man's 414 in 1992, I think was when this mic was in the black face ones, not the silver face things. These were made in Austria. Zinc alloy body. The capsule's not as big as a 414, but if you find these things on eBay, folks, stop leaving them, because guess who's coming behind you to buy them? I am. Okay? People just take these, and I'm finding these things in excellent condition. You could get these for about $75 on eBay. But people don't pay attention to the specs. This thing specs out close to a 414. Don't believe what I'm saying? Go on the AKG website, plug in this microphone, look at the specs, the signal to noise ratio, the sensitivity, the self noise, as well as the frequency response. Tell me what you think. But every time I see these things on eBay going for next to nothing, like $75, I snatch it. I have about 3 or 4 of them right now. There's 2 in this case right here. So y'all keep leaving them, I'll keep buying them. Okay, so now let's transition a bit. Vanguard V13, your thoughts. Um, I don't have an opinion on it. If you go to Wavy Wayne, he's one of my boys on YouTube. Go to his channel. He did a full review on it. He seems to like it, and I respect his opinion greatly. He does hip hop a lot, but he's from an informed perspective, and he's a pro. He's been in the business for a little bit. He's a young guy, but he knows his stuff, man. And I trust what he says. So I would say go to wavywayne.com or wayne.wave is his website at the or wavywave.com. One or the other, type in Wavy, W-A-V-Y, Wayne, and you'll see. He did an extensive review on this microphone, and he seems to like it. So I respect his opinion. And the question of the day was presented to me by someone with regards to noise gates. Okay, now we're gonna transition a bit. This is I'm gonna close with this, and then I'm gonna open it up for questions again in a second. I know Wavy. Yeah, okay, then check him out. But with regards to noise gates can be a blessing and can be a curse. Now, if you're using noise gates in a DAW, you have a lot more control. But the question I think was presented to me from the perspective of a person who wants to use it during podcasting to, I guess, mitigate the noise in the background. Now, this is the deal. If you know how to properly dial in a noise gate based on the attack time, the decay time of the curve, the attenuation of how much noise you want to attenuate, if you can judiciously get in there and tweak it, go for it. The range, go for it. But know this, noise gates improperly set can sound very choppy if you don't know what you're doing. And if you're live, because of the dynamics of the spoken voice, it can go from loud to soft, soft to loud, or points in between. You're asking the gate to become schizophrenic at that point, Whereas if you're working with it in Pro Tools, you could probably say, okay, well, the snare hit is 2 and 4, pop, boom, pop. You could get it to attenuate the noise in a particular fashion, but because it's live or spoken word, which has a different dynamic character, you might not get the same result. So when one wants to use noise gates in a live circumstance, you have to be very careful. You have to make sure that gate is near you, because maybe you may need to make adjustments on the fly to find a sweet spot during whatever it is that you're doing. Now, back a long time ago, I used to use a DBX 463X noise gate because it was program dependent, which means all of that little individual tweaking and gating was done based on whatever was being fed program wise. It was being fed program wise. So the gate did 99.9% of the work. The only thing I had to worry about was looking at the meter and seeing how much it was attenuating the sound. You know what I mean? So if one wants to use noise gates live or during a recording, if you're recording with the noise gate, know this: whatever's getting down into the DAW, that noise gate is going with it. I don't suggest that you do that. I suggest that you find a quieter environment, if you can, to record in, or go the old-fashioned Pro Tools way, and if you got noise in the background, just delete it, or use the Pro Tools to attenuate it. Hey, my cousin just signed on. Hey, Deborah, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. It's always great when family chimes in. I appreciate my family, truly do. Okay, so let's get back to a question about the WA2A. He says, is the signal to noise ratio of the WA2A considered low or good at negative 74? I've only used songs that would I notice it still? Okay. No, no, no. When we're talking about a spec like signal to noise ratios, right? Um, we're coming from the perspective of I always dealt with it from the perspective of getting above. There's no technical. I know I sound like I'm babbling right now, but when you're talking about signal to noise ratio, I think that was an extremely important spec when we were recording to tape, because tape had a noise floor of its own. So you really didn't want to contend with the noise floor of tape in addition to the noise floor of a piece of equipment, because you're adding one thing on top of the other. You're layering noise on top of noise, which is what you don't want to do. That is less important nowadays. Why? Because we have a dynamic range of 144 decibels here and there. You got a lot of space to work in. Tape did not have the dynamic range of digital. So I think that is less of an important spec nowadays. I'm not saying that one should ignore it. No, you don't want to do that. You want to pay attention to the spec, but at the same time, I think it's less important nowadays when you're thinking about, okay, what equipment to buy. Because the componentry that goes inside of equipment is 1,000 times better. Resistors are 1,000 times better. Capacitors, provided they're not some off-brand things from China, are 1,000. If you have quality Japanese Nishinon capacitors, those things are good components to put inside of equipment nowadays. So, and manufacturers like Warm Audio, Heritage, they're paying attention to what the guts of a component needs to go into their equipment. That's why the stuff sounds so good. Both Warm and Heritage. So for those who want to flame a brother, y'all can't imagine a ton of hate mail. I'm still getting hate mail about a video I did 2 years ago, Warm versus Heritage. I think I looked at this spec the other day. It has an 87% like ratio, which means 15% of the people hate what I'm saying, But it is what it is. But nowadays, there's a whole lot of manufacturers, Clark Technic included, that's putting out quality equipment, so you don't have to worry. Thinking about grabbing the Warm Audio bus compressor. It's quite a piece of gear. I have one. I've been using it. I did a video on it. If you haven't checked it out, you should. And yes, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, you can't beat it. The self noise of gear is why we always record. Yeah. See, that's the point. That's what the point that I'm trying. If the noise of the gear was noisy, and then you had to contend with a noise floor and tape, we know. You can't be stacking noise on top of noise. But nowadays, it's less of an issue. It's less of an issue. And kudos to those who are coming up, man. I mean, Bryce Young is a very, very smart man. I've had a chance to sit down and talk with him from a technical perspective. He's brilliant. He's a great businessman, and some people have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. He's the guy. So Warm Audio is providing you some really, really good gear, and they're amping it up. So I'm glad to be a part of their family. And oh, good. I'm glad you saw the video. Links for Life said, I saw the video about the Warm Audio bus compressor. Great. Secret Armor says, I'd have the noise gate very soft in the beginning and do a lot of trial and error to get it. Yeah, I mean, when you're setting noise gates with that many parameters, it's going to be you know, you know, um, you know, constant tweaking, especially in the spoken word. The noise attenuation still works well. Yeah, well, the attenuation of a noise gate, when you see a negative number, is it going to attenuate the background noise by how much? Now, negative 80 is an extreme. You don't want to go there. So you figure if you could attenuate the noise by at least a negative number of 10 to 20, that's a sweet spot. Because unless you're recording outside, it becomes less of an issue. So keep those things in mind. If you have any further questions, go to the channel and send me an email. The email for reaching out to me, and I'll answer any questions. We can have dialogue. I don't mind going back and forth, brother. Believe me. That's what I'm here for. So let's go through. I'm about to wrap it up. And the dummies guide. Again, ask yourself these questions. What am I going to use the microphone on? Who is the manufacturer? Do not buy whack off-brand mics because you will be buying it twice. How does it sound on my fill in the blank? Whether it's your vocals, your instrument, whatever. How can I get it repaired? Very, very important. And in this order, coming in at number 3 is the Studio Project C1, which can be had for $175 on eBay. Again, it boasts a sensitivity of negative 37 dB, output impedance less than 200 ohms, which is good. A maximum sound pressure level of 131 dB, which is respectable. I don't think we have many people screaming into the microphone like crazy. A self noise of 17 decibels and a signal to noise ratio of 77 respectable decibels. Coming in at number 2, the AKG P240 for $179. Boasts a frequency response of 20 to 20,000 kilohertz. 20,000 hertz, not kilohertz. I should have said 20K. Come on now, get it together. A sensitivity of negative 28, which is respectable. It doesn't require a whole lot of preamplification. Output impedance of less than 200 ohms, as well as a self noise of a respectable 15 decibels and a signal to noise ratio of 79 dB. That is an excellent spec. Okay, so for $179, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, in addition to a shock mount and a carry case. Coming in at number 1, which should be 4 times the price of $259, is the Lewitt Audio LCT 440 Pure microphone. It boasts a frequency response of 20 to 20,000 hertz, sensitivity at negative 31, which means it's going to require at least 31 decibels of preamplification to get it to 0 dB. An output impedance of 110 ohms, respectable again. The sound pressure level of 140 decibels makes it one of the most versatile mics sound pressure level wise, which means from screamer vocals all the way down to soft spoken vocals. A self noise of an insane 7 decibels. That alone should inflate the price by 4 times what you're seeing, in addition to the signal to noise ratio of 87 dB. So there you have it, folks. The top 3 contenders, with the number 1 being my favorite, which you're hearing right now, the Lewitt Audio LCT 440 Pure. I did a review on my website, on my channel of this microphone. And Warren Hewitt of ProduceLikeAPro.com also put this microphone up against a classic Neumann U47, and this microphone stood toe-to-toe without any problems. So, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, any questions, reach out to me. The information is on the channel. I do appreciate, again, you guys tuning in. And do me a favor, whatever you do, stay safe. Stay inside if you can. If you must go outside, cover your face. And don't forget, when you get back at home, wash your hands. Nobody don't want no grimy fingers, okay? So, I appreciate you guys, honestly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. I have one other question coming in. I will answer in the comment section. Thanks for tuning in. Please say hello to the family. Thank you.